The girl walked into the clubhouse like she owned death itself, and every man in that room felt it. 8 years old, maybe 9, bare feet leaving dirt prints on concrete, a garbage bag clutched in both hands, and eyes that had already seen the end of everything. The music died first, then the laughter, then the breathing seemed to stop as she planted herself in the center of the room where leather-clad men, twice her size, suddenly couldn't find words. "Which one of you is Reaper?" Her voice cut through the silence like a blade through skin. The man in the corner stood slowly, ink-covered arms crossing over his chest, gray threading through his beard. He'd killed men. Everyone knew it. The kind of knowing that lived in whispers and police reports that went nowhere. "Who's asking?" "Your daughter." The room exploded. Not with sound, but with the kind of tension that precedes violence, that electric charge when men realize the rules just changed and nobody told them how. Someone dropped a bottle. Glass shattered. Nobody moved to clean it. "I don't have a daughter," he said, but his voice carried a tremor that betrayed him. "You did. 17 years ago. My mama died yesterday, and she made me promise to find you before they took me." The girl lifted the garbage bag. "She kept everything. Every letter you sent from prison. Every picture. Every lie you told about coming back." She appended the bag, and paper fell like snow. Photographs of a younger man with the same eyes, the same way of standing like the world owed him something. Letters postmarked from 3 different state prisons. A birth certificate with his name in the father line and a baby footprint in blue ink. The evidence of a life interrupted, abandoned, forgotten except by a woman who'd loved him enough to keep the proof. "Crystal," he whispered. "She's dead. Cancer. They gave her 6 months, but she made it 11 because she was stubborn and she wanted to make sure I'd be okay before she left." The girl's hands were shaking now, first crack in her armor. "She said to find you because blood matters. She said you'd take care of me because underneath the leather and the meanness you were a good man who made bad choices." She said that right before she stopped breathing. I was holding her hand in the hospice, and she squeezed once and said your name, and then she was gone, and I've been walking for 2 days trying to find this place because the nurses said they'd call social services, and I'm not going into the system. "I won't." A man behind her spoke up, voice rough from cigarettes and years. "How'd you find us?" "Asked at the diner. Lady there said hell's angels hang out here, and that Reaper's the president. Said to stay away. Said you were dangerous." The girl looked around at the patches, the weapons mounted on walls, the pictures of men who weren't coming back. She was right about the dangerous part. "You can't be here," someone else said. "This ain't a place for kids." "I'm not a kid. I'm his daughter, and I got nowhere else to go." She turned back to face the man who might be her father, the man who was definitely afraid though he'd die before admitting it. She said you owed her 18 years of raising me alone while you played outlaw. She said the debt comes due now. "You don't understand what you're asking. I understand everything. I understand you left when Mama was pregnant because you got arrested for something you won't talk about. I understand she visited you for 3 years until you told her to stop coming, that you didn't want a family waiting. I understand she raised me on waitress tips and extra shifts, and she never said a bad word about you, even though she should have." The crack in her voice widened. "I understand she's dead, and I'm alone, and you're all I got left even if you don't want me." The room held its breath. 17 men who'd faced down rival clubs and police raids and their own demons, all frozen by a child's desperate arithmetic. Want versus obligation. Freedom versus responsibility. The past arriving with a garbage bag full of proof and demanding acknowledgement. "What's your name?" he asked finally. "Grace. That's a hell of a name for someone who just walked into hell. She named me after your mother. Said maybe that would make you remember you were human once." Grace wiped her nose with the back of her hand, childlike gesture that broke through the hardness she'd been projecting. "Please. I got nobody. No aunts or uncles. No grandparents. Mama's friends all got their own problems, and the state's gonna put me with strangers who'll pretend to care until the checks stop coming. I know what this place is. I know what you do. But your blood, and that's gotta mean something." The man called Reaper looked at the papers scattered across his floor. At the proof of a life he'd tried to forget, tried to bury under violence and brotherhood, and the deliberate construction of a self that owed nothing to anyone. He'd been 17 when she was conceived. Stupid and angry and convinced the world would bend to his will if he pushed hard enough. Prison had been the correction, the universe's way of saying no. And when he'd gotten out, starting over had meant leaving everything behind, including her. "You can't stay," he said. "Then I'll sleep outside. I'll follow you everywhere. I'll make this your problem until you deal with it." It's not that simple. Yes, it is. You either take me or you don't. You either pay what you owe or you prove Mama was wrong about the good man part. Grace squared her shoulders. What's it going to be? Behind him, a woman emerged from the back room. Older than everyone else, gray hair pulled back severe, leather vest hanging off thin shoulders. She looked at the girl, at the papers, at the man caught between futures, and made a sound like disgust. "Christ, Reaper. She's the spitting image of you at that age. Same stubborn jaw. Same way of looking at people like they're already disappointing you. Stay out of this, Ma. Can't. You brought club business into my house when you became president. This is club business now." The woman walked closer to Grace, studying her with eyes that missed nothing. "What happened to your feet? Shoes didn't fit anymore. Outgrew them a month ago, but Mama couldn't afford new ones, and then she got too sick to take me shopping. You walked here barefoot. Hitched most of the way. Walked the last 6 miles because the trucker who gave me a ride got weird, and I jumped out at a stoplight." The woman's expression hardened. "What kind of weird?" "The kind where he asked if I had a boyfriend and put his hand on my knee." Grace said it matter of fact, like this was just another Tuesday. "I told him I'd scream, and he laughed, but he unlocked the door, so I ran." Jesus Christ. The woman looked at Reaper. "You hearing this? Your kid's been out there alone, dodging predators, walking on concrete until her feet bleed, and you're worried about simple. I can't just take in a child. Look around. This life ain't built for kids. Then build different. Or are you going to tell her the same thing you told her mama? That your comfort matters more than being a man." The challenge hung in the air like a thrown gauntlet. Around the room, the other members watched their president get called out by the one person who could do it without consequences. The club mother. The woman who'd been there before any of them, who'd buried 3 husbands and 2 sons, and still showed up every day to make sure these broken men ate something besides pride and violence. "1 week," he said finally. "You can stay 1 week while we figure out a better situation. But you follow the rules. You stay out of club business. You don't leave the property without permission. And if I say move, you move. Clear. Clear." "Spit," the woman said. "What?" "Spit and shake. That's how we seal deals here. No handshake's worth nothing without spit." Grace spat in her palm and held it out. After a long moment, the man called Reaper did the same. Their hands met, wet and binding, and whatever happened next would be built on that foundation of reluctant acknowledgement and biological imperative. "Someone get her shoes," the woman ordered. "And food. She looks like she hasn't eaten since yesterday." "Day before," Grace admitted. The room burst into motion. Men who minutes ago had been paralyzed by uncertainty suddenly had purpose. Someone brought boots 3 sizes too big. Someone else emerged with a sandwich that looked like it had been assembled by someone who'd never seen bread before. A third man produced a first aid kit and knelt to examine feet that were indeed bleeding, torn up by hot asphalt and desperation. Grace ate, standing up, watching these men move around her with the careful uncertainty of people handling something fragile and unfamiliar. She cataloged details, the way they deferred to the gray-haired woman, the hierarchy visible in who spoke and who stayed silent. The gun's not quite hidden, the drugs probably hidden better. This was a machine built for a specific purpose, and she was a wrench thrown into gears that weren't designed for her shape. "Bathroom's through there," the woman said, pointing. "Shower's probably a mess, but the water's hot. You got clothes in that bag, or just papers. Just papers. Everything else got left behind when the hospice said they'd call authorities." I grabbed what mattered and ran. "Smart girl." The woman pulled keys from her pocket. "There's a trailer out back. Used to be storage, but we cleaned it out last month. You can stay there. It's not much, but it's got a lock and nobody'll bother you. I'll bring you something to wear." "Why are you helping me?" "Because I remember being alone. I remember thinking maybe nobody gave a shit if I lived or died. I remember being wrong about that, and I remember how much it mattered that someone proved me wrong. She touched Grace's shoulder, brief contact that somehow conveyed more than words. You eat. You shower. You sleep. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest. Grace finished the sandwich and followed directions because survival meant recognizing when to fight and when to accept help. The shower was lukewarm and the soap was industrial, but she stayed under the spray until her fingers pruned and the dirt of 2 days circled the drain. Someone had left clothes on the toilet. Men's t-shirt that hung to her knees. Sweatpants with a drawstring. Clean socks. She put them on and felt almost human again, almost safe, almost like maybe this gamble would pay off. The trailer was exactly what promised. 12 feet of aluminum and rust with a mattress on the floor and a space heater that rattled when it ran. But there was a lock on the door and a window she could escape through if needed, and that was more security than she'd had in weeks. She lay down and waited for sleep that didn't come, adrenaline still singing through her veins, mind replaying the moment she'd walked into that clubhouse and demanded a future from a man who'd spent nearly a decade pretending she didn't exist. Outside, voices carried through thin walls. Men arguing, laughing, making plans that didn't include her. Motorcycles started and left. Came back. The rhythm of a life that operated on its own clock, following its own rules. She listened and learned because that's what survivors did. They adapted. They found patterns. They figured out how to become invisible or indispensable, depending on which one kept them breathing. Morning came with someone pounding on the trailer door. Grace jerked awake, heart hammering, instinct screaming run before her mind caught up to where she was. She opened the door to find a young man, maybe 20, with acne scars and nervous energy. Breakfast. Boss says you eat with the club. He say anything else? Yeah, that you call him Reaper, not Dad. That's non-negotiable. Grace followed him to the main building where men were already gathering around a table loaded with food. Eggs, bacon, toast, coffee in industrial quantities. They made space for her without being asked. This child suddenly part of their routine, and she sat between 2 huge men who smelled like leather and cigarettes and didn't speak. The man she was supposed to call Reaper sat at the head of the table, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Not quite hostile, not quite welcoming, just assessing like she was a problem requiring calculation. You sleep okay? He asked. Fine. Anyone bother you? No. Good. Keep it that way. He stabbed eggs with unnecessary force. We got business today. You stay in the trailer. Don't wander. Don't talk to anyone who comes by. Someone will bring you lunch. What about school? The question stopped conversation. Forts paused midair. Coffee cups hovered. What about it? He said carefully. Mama was teaching me at home, but I'm supposed to be in 4th grade. I need books. I need assignments. I can't just sit in a trailer all day doing nothing. School's how they find you. Social services checks enrollment. They'll be looking. So you're just going to keep me hidden? Like I'm something illegal? You're something illegal. You're an unregistered minor in the care of a felon with no custody rights. That's several laws broken right there. Then get custody rights. Do whatever paperwork makes it legal. It's not that simple. I got a record. I got a lifestyle. No judge is going to give me a kid. Then what's the plan? I stay invisible forever. I turn 18 in this trailer. Grace pushed her plate away. Mama said you'd take care of me. Not hide me. Take care of me. That means school and doctors and all the normal things kids are supposed to have. Nothing about this is normal. Then make it normal. Or prove she was wrong about you, and I'll figure it out myself. The old woman chuckled from the kitchen doorway. She's got you there. Not helping, Ma. Not trying to help. Trying to watch my son get called out by someone 2/3 his size. She poured coffee. Girl's right, though. You can't keep her in a box. That's just a different kind of neglect. He stood abruptly, chair scraping concrete. Outside. Now. Grace followed him into morning sun that was already hot, into the yard where motorcycles lined up like soldiers awaiting orders. He pulled out a cigarette, lit it, exhaled smoke with the force of frustration, looking for targets. You don't understand what you're asking, he said. I understand exactly. I'm asking you to be a father. I don't know how to be that. Neither did Mama at first. She figured it out. Grace crossed her arms. Look, I get it. This wasn't your plan. I wasn't invited. But here I am, and you can either step up or step aside. Just tell me which, so I can stop hoping for something you can't give." He smoked in silence, studying her with eyes that were indeed identical to hers. Same color, same shape, same way of looking at the world, like it was a problem requiring aggressive solutions. "Your mama," he said finally. "She really never talked bad about me?" "Never. She said you were young and scared, and the world didn't give young, scared men much room for mistakes. She said prison changed you, and that was her fault for loving someone who wasn't ready. It wasn't her fault. I know, but she blamed herself anyway. That's what love does. Makes you take responsibility for things that aren't yours to carry. She teach you that. She lived it. I just watched and learned." Grace kicked at dirt with her two big boots. "She talked about you sometimes. Late at night, when she thought I was sleeping. She'd look at your picture and cry and tell it that she forgave you. That she hoped you found peace. That she wished things had been different. Shit." He turned away, but not before she saw his jaw clench. "Yeah, she did. But she got you, and she got me, and she made the best of it. Now it's your turn to make the best of something you didn't choose. And if I can't, if I'm not capable, then you're not. But at least try. That's all I'm asking. Just try." He finished the cigarette, crushed it under his boot, looked at the sky like it might have answers. "All right, here's what we're going to do. You stay here while I talk to some people. I got a lawyer who handles club business. Maybe he knows someone who can navigate custody shit. Meanwhile, Ma's going to take you shopping. Get you clothes that fit. Shoes. Whatever else kids need. I need books. Fine. Books too. But you keep your head down. You don't tell anyone your last name or where you're staying. Someone asks, your Ma's grandkid visiting from out of state." Got it. Got it. And Grace. He met her eyes. "I can't promise I'll be good at this. I can't promise I won't fuck it up. But I'll try. That's the best I got. That's all Mama ever asked for." The shopping trip was surreal. The old woman drove a pickup truck held together by rust and prayer, chain smoking through the open window, dispensing wisdom nobody asked for. They hit a big box store where everything was too bright and too clean, and people looked at them like they'd wandered in from another century. "Get whatever you need," the woman said, pushing a cart. "Don't look at prices. We got money." Grace grabbed the basics. Jeans that fit, shirts without stains, underwear, a coat for when weather turned. Practical things. But in the book section, she lingered, running fingers across spines, trying to calculate what she could ask for without being greedy. "Take 5, the woman said. "I don't need 5. Didn't ask what you needed. Said take 5. Girl your age should be reading everything she can get her hands on. World's hard enough without being stupid about it too." Grace selected carefully. Books about survival, about smart girls solving problems, about found families and second chances. She added them to the cart alongside soap and toothpaste and all the invisible infrastructure of being human. At checkout, the total climbed into $300, and the old woman paid cash without blinking. "Thank you," Grace said in the parking lot. "Don't thank me. Thank the idiot who just realized he's got a daughter and doesn't want to completely fail at it. You really think he'll try? I think he's terrified. And fear makes men either run or fight. He's already running from enough. Maybe you're the thing he fights for." The woman loaded bags into the truck bed. "But you gotta understand something. This life, this club, it's not normal. There's gonna be things you see, things you hear that you can't talk about. Not to teachers or friends or anyone. You become part of this family. You become part of the silence. That's the price." "What kind of things?" "The kind that put people in prison or graves. The kind that can't be unseen once you see them." She lit another cigarette. "I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. Because if you stay, if he steps up and takes custody for real, your life's going to be different than other kids. You need to decide if you can handle that." Grace thought about her mother dying alone except for her hand. About the nurses who'd been kind but overworked. About the system that saw children as case numbers and inconveniences. About walking barefoot on hot asphalt away from people who wanted to help her into structures designed to contain rather than care. "I can handle it," she said. "You sure?" "Because there's other options. Good foster families. People who'd give you a normal childhood. Normal's overrated. Mama taught me that too. She said normal people abandon you when things get hard. Said what matters is finding people who stay. And you think outlaws stay? I think they understand loyalty. I think they understand that family's not about blood. It's about who shows up. Grace looked at the woman. You showed up. You didn't have to, but you did. That tells me everything I need to know. They drove back in comfortable silence. Country music playing low, the landscape outside unchanging in that way deserts have of making time feel negotiable. When they pulled into the compound, multiple bikes were parked in configurations that hadn't been there before. Something had happened. Something that made men gather and talk in tight circles with serious expressions. Stay in the truck, the woman ordered. She disappeared into the clubhouse, and Grace waited, watching through the windshield as shadows moved behind windows, as gestures got animated, as whatever was happening escalated beyond her understanding. 5 minutes became 10. 10 became 20. She was reaching for the door handle when it opened, and the man called Reaper stood there, face unreadable. Got a situation, he said. Okay. Cops are asking questions. Someone reported seeing a kid matching her description getting into a truck with an older woman. Description matchma. They're going to come looking. Grace's stomach dropped. What do? We move you. Tonight. Somewhere they won't think to look. Where? Better you don't know yet. Just trust me. He glanced back at the clubhouse. Pack your stuff. Be ready to leave in an hour. Are you in trouble because of me? No more than usual. But Grace, this is what I was talking about. This is the complicated part. You being here puts everyone at risk. The club. Me. If they find you and I don't have legal custody, they arrest me for kidnapping. They shut down the club for harboring a minor. Everyone goes down. Then give me back. Tell them you don't want me. Too late for that. Something crossed his face, some emotion he wasn't equipped to express. You're mine now. That means I protect you even when it's stupid, even when it costs. That's what family means in this life. Mama said the same thing. Then she raised you, right, even if she did name you after my mother. He almost smiled. 1 hour. Don't make me wait. The hour passed in frantic preparation. Grace packed the new clothes, the books, the toiletries that represented the first stability she'd had in weeks. The old woman appeared with a backpack, more practical than a garbage bag, and helped her organize everything with military efficiency. Where are they taking me? Grace asked. Ranch about 100 miles north. Friend of the club owns it. You'll be safe there until we sort this mess. Will I see him? Will he visit? When he can. But you gotta understand, the less connection between you two right now, the better. If cops are watching, if social services is tracking, any contact is evidence. So, I'm just supposed to hide? Pretend I don't exist. You're supposed to survive. That's always the first job. The woman zipped the backpack. Listen to me. This man, this friend, his name's August. He's good people. Little strange, real quiet, but good. He'll keep you fed and safe. You do your part by keeping your head down and being patient. I don't want to be patient. I want a family. Then you'll have one. But these things take time. Legal time. Bureaucratic time. The slow grinding wheels of a system that don't give a shit about what you want, only what checks her boxes. She gripped Grace's shoulders. You're a fighter. I seen it. So fight smart. Let us handle the complicated parts while you just be a kid for a while. Can you do that? Grace wanted to argue, wanted to demand immediacy, wanted to skip past the hard parts to where everything worked out. But she'd watched her mother die slowly, had learned that some things couldn't be rushed or forced. That patience was its own kind of strength. Yeah, she said, I can do that. The ride north happened in darkness. Not Reaper driving, but another man, someone younger who didn't talk, just drove with the radio off and his eyes checking mirrors constantly. Grace sat in the back seat watching lights pass, towns bleeding into desert, civilization giving way to emptiness. After 2 hours, they turned onto a dirt road that seemed to go nowhere, bouncing over ruts and rocks until a house appeared like a mirage, small and weathered with light in one window. The man called August came out to meet them. 60s maybe, lean in that way of people who work physically every day, wearing denim and scuffed boots, an expression that suggested he'd seen enough to not be surprised by much. He looked at Grace and nodded once. She'll be safe here, he said. Voice like gravel. Cops come asking. You don't know nothing, the driver said. Never do. They transferred Grace's backpack, and just like that, she was being handed off again, passed between adults like a package that needed storing. The young man drove away without goodbye, and she stood there in dust and starlight with a stranger who was supposed to keep her safe. "You eat?" August asked. "Earlier." "Hungry now?" "No, sir." "Don't call me sir. Makes me feel old." August works fine. He walked toward the house. "Come on. I'll show you where you're staying." Inside was sparse but clean. Furniture that had seen decades. Books lining shelves. A kitchen that smelled like coffee and something baking. He led her to a small room with a bed, a dresser, a window overlooking darkness. "Used to be my daughter's room," he said. "She's grown now, living in California, doing whatever people do in California." He set the backpack on the bed. "Bathrooms across the hall. You need anything, my room's at the other end. Don't wander outside after dark. Coyotes." "Okay." He turned to leave, stopped. "Kid like you shouldn't be in this situation. Whatever happened, whoever failed, it ain't your fault. You remember that when it gets hard. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You're here because trouble's chasing you, and I'm the kind of fool who takes in trouble without asking questions. We'll see if thanks is appropriate when this is over." He left her alone with unfamiliar walls and the crushing weight of displacement. Grace unpacked mechanically, putting clothes in drawers, books on the nightstand, trying to create order in a situation defined by chaos. Outside, coyotes did sing. High wavering calls that sounded like grief or celebration, depending on your perspective. She lay down and thought about her mother, about walking into that clubhouse with nothing but proof and desperation, about the man who'd spat in his palm and made a promise he was now trying to keep in the most complicated way possible, about the old woman who'd bought her books, about this stranger who'd taken her in without explanation. All these people who showed up when showing up meant risk. That had to mean something, had to be building towards something. Days passed in strange rhythm. August worked the ranch, and she helped where she could, feeding chickens, mending fence, learning tasks that had nothing to do with her old life. He didn't talk much, but he was steady, reliable. When he said he'd do something, it got done. When he said she was safe, she believed him. 2 weeks in, Reaper showed up. Grace heard the motorcycle before she saw it, that distinctive sound cutting through afternoon heat. She ran out to meet him and stopped herself from hugging him because she didn't know if that was allowed, didn't know what the rules were for fathers who weren't ready to be called dad. "You good?" he asked, climbing off the bike. "Yeah, August takes care of me. He better. I told him what would happen if he didn't. Not a joke. A fact. Listen, I can't stay long. Just wanted to check on you and give you an update. Did you find a lawyer?" "Found 3. They all say the same thing. My record's too heavy. My lifestyle's too questionable. No family court's gonna grant me custody without a fight." He pulled out a cigarette, remembered she was watching, put it away. "But there might be another way. Ma's looking into becoming your legal guardian. She's got a cleaner record. Owns her house outright. Been in the community 40 years. She's got a better shot. But I'm not hers. I am yours. Biology don't matter to the state. What matters is stability. Safety. A home that ain't a clubhouse full of felons." He looked away. "I know it's not what you wanted, but it gets you legal, gets you in school, gives you a foundation. And where would I live? With Ma. In town. Normal house. Normal neighborhood. She's already clearing out the spare room." He met her eyes. "I'd still see you, still be part of your life. But official paperwork would say she's your guardian. That protect everyone, including you." Grace felt something crack inside her chest. Not anger. Something worse. The understanding that good intentions didn't always translate to what you needed. That adults did what they thought was best, even when best felt like abandonment in smaller font. "When?" she asked. "Social workers coming next week. They're going to interview you, interview Ma, do a home inspection. You got to tell them you want this, that you feel safe, that Ma's who you choose. And if I don't, if I tell them the truth, then they put you in the system and we spend years fighting to get you back. Maybe we win. Probably we don't." His jaw worked. "I know this ain't fair. Nothing about this has been fair. But fair don't matter. What matters is keeping you safe and legal and giving you a chance at something better than what I got. What if I don't want better? What if I want you?" The words hung between them like broken glass. He looked at her, and she saw something she hadn't seen before. Not just fear or obligation. Actual pain. The kind that came from wanting something you believed you didn't deserve. You got me, he said quietly. Just not the way you imagined. I'm going to be the guy who shows up to school events and birthday dinners and all that. I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. I'm just not going to be the name on the paperwork. That's all this is. That's everything. No, everything's whether you're safe and fed and educated. Everything's whether you get to be a kid instead of a fugitive. This is me choosing that over my ego. He crouched down eye level. Your mama did the same thing. Raised you alone because she knew I'd just fuck it up. Now I'm doing it official. Giving you to someone who'll do it right. She didn't give me away. She died. And before she died, she told you to find me. Not because she thought I'd be good at it, but because she knew I'd try. Well, this is me trying. This is what trying looks like when you're honest about your limitations. Grace wanted to argue. Wanted to demand he be more, be better, be the fantasy father she'd built in her head during long nights when her mother was too sick to remember to eat. But looking at him, at the way he held himself like he was bracing for a blow, she understood this was hard for him too. That admitting he wasn't enough was its own kind of courage. Okay, she said. Yeah, I'll tell them I want Ma. I'll play along. But you have to promise you'll show up. Not just sometimes. All the time. Every event. Every dinner. Every time I need you. I promise. Spit on it. He laughed, surprised, and spat in his palm. She did the same. They shook, and it felt more binding than any legal document would ever be. This was their contract, their understanding. He'd give her the structure she needed, and she'd forgive him for not being a different man. August treating you okay? He asked, standing. He's teaching me to fix fences. Says everyone should know how to mend things. Smart man. You listen to him. He climbed back on his bike. I'll see you next week. Before the social worker comes. We'll make sure your story's straight. It's not a story if it's true. Everything's a story when you're trying to survive it. He kicked the engine to life. Be good, Grace. He rode away, and she watched until the dust settled, until there was nothing left but tire tracks and the memory of a conversation that had changed everything while changing nothing. August came up beside her, quiet as always. He's doing right by you, the old man said. Might not feel like it, but he is. How do you know? Because the easy thing would have been to let them take you. The hard thing's fighting for you, even when fighting means stepping back. That's what love looks like sometimes. Knowing when to let go. My mama never let go. Your mama didn't have a choice. Cancer don't negotiate. But if she'd had a choice, if she'd known that keeping you meant hurting you, she'd have done the same thing he's doing. August turned back toward the house. Come on. Chickens need feeding, and philosophy don't gather eggs. The week passed too fast. Reaper came back the night before the social worker visit, brought Ma with him, and they sat around August's table running through what would happen. Questions they'd ask. Answers Grace needed to give. The performance of stability they'd all agreed to stage. They're going to ask if you feel safe, Ma said. You say yes. They're going to ask if you want to live with me. You say yes. They're going to ask about your father. You say you've never met him. That your mama never talked about him. That you don't know where he is. But that's lying. That's surviving. There's a difference. The old woman's face was hard. I know you want to be honest. I know you want to tell them about Reaper and the club and how you walked into that clubhouse demanding family. But the truth gets everyone hurt right now. It gets them arrested. It gets me denied. It gets you placed with strangers. So we lie. We lie smart, and we lie consistent, and we get you legal. And then what? Then we figure out how to tell the truth in ways that don't destroy everything. She pulled papers from her bag. Birth certificate. I'm listed as emergency contact. School records showing I've been involved in your education. Medical records showing I took you to appointments. We've been building this paper trail for 2 weeks. Everything checks out. You forged documents. I created reality. What's forged is what they try to make you believe. That you were alone. That you had nobody. We're just correcting the record. Ma's eyes were fierce. You're my granddaughter now. In every way that matters. You want to argue with that? No, ma'am. Good. Then tomorrow you act like it. You smile, and you tell them you're happy, and you make them believe it's all you ever wanted. The social worker was a tired woman named Patricia with kind eyes and a legal pad. She interviewed Grace alone first, asking about school and friends and whether anyone had hurt her. Grace stuck to the script. Said Ma was her grandmother. Said she'd been living there since her mother got sick. Said she felt safe and loved and all the things Patricia needed to hear to check her boxes. Then Patricia interviewed Ma, asked about finances and living situation and whether she was capable of raising a child. Ma showed bank statements and recommendation letters from neighbors and played the role of concerned grandmother with perfect precision. She'd been wearing this mask so long it might as well have been her face. The home inspection came next. Walking through Ma's house, noting the clean bedroom with stuffed animals staged carefully on shelves, the books on homework assignments, the refrigerator full of healthy food, evidence of a life that had been constructed in days to appear lifelong. Everything seems in order, Patricia said finally. I'll recommend approval for temporary guardianship. We'll check back in 3 months to see how things are going. That's it, Grace asked. That's it. Assuming nothing changes, this will become permanent in 6 months. Patricia smiled. You're lucky to have family who wants you. Most kids in your situation aren't so fortunate. Lucky. The word tasted like ashes. After Patricia left, after Ma had closed the door and leaned against it with exhausted relief, after Reaper had called to confirm it was done, Grace sat in her new room, surrounded by evidence of a life that wasn't real, and tried to figure out how she felt. Not happy, not sad, just displaced. Like she'd traded one kind of survival for another, both equally temporary, both requiring performance. School started 2 weeks later. Ma enrolled her under her own last name, creating another layer of fiction. Grace became someone else. Someone whose father was unknown, and whose mother was dead, and whose grandmother stepped up. The other kids asked questions she couldn't answer honestly. Where'd you come from? Why haven't we seen you before? What's your deal? She learned to deflect, learned to smile and shrug and change the subject. Learned that reinvention was its own kind of exhaustion. But Reaper showed up, like he promised. First parent-teacher conference, he was there in the parking lot wearing jeans instead of leather, trying to look respectable. First school play, he sat in the back row and clapped louder than anyone when she delivered her 2 lines. First birthday dinner after everything got legal. He brought a cake and presents and stayed late helping clean up, even though Ma said he didn't have to. He was trying. She could see it. The way he asked about homework and remembered details about her life. The way he showed up even when it was awkward, even when other parents looked at him sideways and whispered. The way he was building a relationship from nothing, using determination and presence as foundation. You doing okay? He asked one night, walking her home from school dance. Yeah. You sure? You seem quiet. I'm always quiet. No, you're loud when you care about something. You're quiet when you're holding back. He stopped under a streetlight. What's going on? Grace looked at this man who'd become a fixture in her life, this father who was and wasn't, and felt words rise up that she'd been pushing down for months. I miss here. I miss Mama. And I feel guilty being here, being safe, having this life when she's just gone. Like I'm not allowed to be okay when she's dead. She want you to be okay. That's why she sent you to me. But it feels like forgetting her. Being happy ain't forgetting. It's honoring what she wanted for you. You put a hand on her shoulder. Your mama loved you more than anything. Every choice she made was about giving you better. So you being here, being safe, getting educated, that's her legacy. That's her still taking care of you. I wanted to show her. Wanted her to see me graduate and get a job and make something of myself. She will, just from somewhere you can't see. He pulled her into a hug, awkward but genuine. You're gonna be okay, kid. I know it don't feel like it, but you're stronger than you know, and you got people who give a shit. That's more than most people get. She held on to him and let herself cry for the first time since the hospice. Great heaving sobs that released months of pressure, of pretending, of being strong when she wanted to break. He just held her and let it happen, didn't try to fix it or tell her to stop, just provided presence and stability until the storm passed. Better? He asked when she finally pulled away. Yeah, good. Now, let's get you home before Ma starts worrying. They walked in comfortable silence, and Grace felt something shift. Not resolution, not closure, but acceptance of what was, of what couldn't be changed, of the family she'd built from necessity and determination and a garbage bag full of proof. Years passed in that way, time has of accelerating once you stop fighting it. Grace grew, got good grades, made friends, learned to navigate the space between her public life and her private knowledge of where she came from. The club became part of her normal. Men with tattoos and loud bikes showing up for her events. Ma's house filling with people who looked dangerous but treated her like she was precious. The slow accumulation of moments that built into something resembling family. She was 16 when she asked the question that had been sitting in her chest since the beginning. "Why'd you leave?" she asked Reaper one night. They were sitting on Ma's porch, watching storms roll in across the desert. "Why'd you leave Mama when she was pregnant?" He was quiet for a long time. Long enough she thought he might not answer. Then, because I was scared. Because I was 17 and stupid and convinced that being a father meant giving up everything I wanted to be. So I chose myself, chose the club and the life, and convinced myself she was better off without me. Were you right? No, I was selfish. She struggled for years because of me. Worked herself to death, trying to give you what should have been my responsibility. He looked at his hands. I tell myself I was young. I didn't know better, but that's bullshit. I knew. I just didn't care enough to do different. And now I care. Too late for your mama, but not for you. That's how to count for something. It does. Grace leaned her head on his shoulder. You're not who I thought you'd be, but you're enough. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. They sat there watching lightning fork across purple skies. This man and this girl who'd found each other through tragedy and need, and Grace thought about her mother's last words. Blood matters. She'd been right. Not because genetics determined destiny, but because sometimes blood was what made people try when trying seemed impossible. Sometimes blood was the foundation everything else got built on. She graduated high school with honors. Full scholarship to State University. When they called her name at commencement, the Hell's Angels section erupted, whooping and hollering until security asked them to settle down. Makraid. Reaper looked proud enough to burst. August drove 6 hours to watch her walk across that stage. This collection of people who shouldn't have added up to family, but somehow did. At the party after, surrounded by leather and love and the smell of barbecue, Grace stood on a chair and demanded attention. I want to say something, she yelled over the noise. The crowd quieted. Dozens of faces turning her direction. 8 years ago, I walked into a clubhouse with nothing but a garbage bag and a prayer. I demanded family from people who didn't owe me anything. And somehow, impossibly, they gave it to me. Not the way I expected, not the way I wanted, but real, built on showing up and trying and refusing to let me face the world alone. She looked at Reaper. I didn't get a fairy tale. I got something better. I got people who chose me every day, even when it was hard, even when it cost, even when it would have been easier to walk away. Speech, someone yelled. I'm not done. I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to make something of myself. And when I do, it'll be because of this family. This impossible, imperfect, illegal in several ways family that proved love isn't about biology or paperwork or doing things right. It's about showing up. That's all. Just showing up. The applause was deafening. Men in leather wiping eyes. Ma full-on sobbing into someone's shoulder. August nodding his quiet approval. And Reaper looking at her like she'd just given him something he'd been searching for his whole life. Forgiveness. Absolution. Proof that his trying had mattered. Later, when the party wound down and people started leaving, he found her cleaning up. I'm proud of you, he said. I know. I mean it. What you've done. Who you've become despite everything. That's all you. I can't take credit. You don't have to take credit. You just have to keep showing up. She tied off a garbage bag. That's all Mama wanted. That's all I wanted. And you did it. Maybe not perfect. Maybe not by the book. But you did it. She'd be proud too. Your mama. She'd see you now and know all that suffering was worth it. Yeah. Grace looked around at the empty yard, the evidence of celebration fading into night. She would. They stood there in the dark, father and daughter, connected by promises kept and second chances earned, and Grace felt something she hadn't felt since before her mother got sick. Not happiness exactly. Something deeper. Contentment. The understanding that she was exactly where she needed to be, with exactly who she needed beside her. What now, he asked. Now I go to college, get my degree, figure out who I want to be when I grow up. And after that we'll see. Maybe I come back. Maybe I don't. But wherever I go, whatever I do, I'll know I got people. That's more than most people get. That's everything, he corrected. Yeah, she agreed. That's everything. The storm that had been threatening finally broke. Rain coming down sudden and heavy, washing the dust from the air, making the world smell clean and possible. They ran for cover laughing. This impossible family built from scraps and determination, and somewhere in the darkness a little girl in a yellow dress with a garbage bag full of proof smiled, knowing she'd been right. Blood mattered, but so did the choice to show up. So did the willingness to try. So did the understanding that family wasn't what you were born into, but what you built with your own hands from whatever materials you had available. And that was enough. That would always be enough.